So welcome everyone. Hi, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Stacy Nakata. I'm co-president of the PTSA this year with Debbie Burke. So we're gonna start this presentation with a short slideshow where we'll be talking briefly about programs, athletics, clubs, and taking you on a short school tour. And then at the end, our panel of expert parents will be available to answer your questions. So please make sure to put your questions in the Q&A section, not in the chat. And then we'll try and get to all of those and get those answered before we're done. So here's what we know so far for the beginning of school. Back to school days are scheduled for August 24th and 25th for those of you who may be planning for vacations during the month of August. And the first day of school is September 1st. So as of right now, the plans are that we know that we have been told are that we'll be in person 5 days a week on a regular schedule. So the PTSA. So at the high school, one of our biggest roles is to keep you, all of our parents, informed. What you're gonna find at the high school that's very different than at the elementary levels and a little more different than at the middle school level is the way the communication works. Because most of it, if not all of it, at certain points will flow through the teacher and staff to the students and won't come to the parents. So, so we're here to help keep you informed. So please make sure you go in and sign up for our weekly newsletters. So make sure you bookmark the PTSA website. On our website, you'll find lots of useful information. If you go to the freshman tab, there you will find a lot of useful information, especially before you start freshman year. Some of them include the MIHS 101 handout, the PTSA MIHS New Family Guide, and some new family quick links. So all of those have some great information to know before you go to school, but please do note that some of this information is a little bit outdated, but it will be updated during the summer. And then also make sure to bookmark the calendar on our website, as that's kept very up to date. And I think, is that you, Debbie? You're on mute.
Hi, thank you. I am Debbie Burke. I am the other co-president for the PTA at the high school this past year. And so in addition to the PTA website, the Mercer Island High School website is also something that will really help to stay connected. And we just wanted to show you a couple of things on this website that we've found really helpful and that are really great tools to use. So on the Mercer Island High School website, first of all, you'll notice on the About Us, if you go to the high school and then hit the About Us tab on the top, there's a daily schedule. So the schedule in high school is a little bit different. They have what are called block days, and then they have full schedule days, and that can change by the week. That can change depending on holidays. So it gets really confusing for parents. The kids seem to get it down pretty quick and they're like, oh no, I know I have this day. But as parents, it can seem a little bit more confusing. So this, if you bookmark this section right here, the daily schedule, if you click on that at any time, it will tell you exactly what the schedule is for that current day. The other thing that's really helpful on this About Us page is over on this other side, the daily bulletin. So if you use the daily bulletin, that gives you the lunch menu that day. That tells you what colleges are coming to visit campus that day. That will tell you the clubs and activities that are meeting that day. It tells you the leadership stuff for that day. If there are sporting events, they're all listed on that. So that daily bulletin is just amazingly helpful for if you're wondering what's happening at the high school that day or want to just know anything about what's going on right then. That is a really good link as well. So those two are great. And then trying to get back to and then if you go to the family tab, so from the Mercer Island High School homepage, if you hit the families tab, there are several really helpful links on here as well. You've got the daily bulletin is also here. There are online form payments. It talks about, there's parent resources. If you go here to forms, one of the forms, for example, that you'll need as a high schooler, or your child will need as a high schooler, is called a WAMO form. And so anytime you have a prearranged absence from school, your child will download this form, fill it out, and they have to take it to the attendance office ahead of time. So if they have like an away game, or if they have a band trip or something happening, that WAMO form is a really important form. And if you as a parent need to find it, it's here in forms on these parent resources. That was one of them, the daily bulletin. There is also what's called a concerns flowchart. And I actually printed this out so that I could show this to you. We as parents are going to have concerns about our kids as they're in high school. And so this chart, and I actually did not know this was there until very recently, and this would have been really helpful. This is something I wish I had had earlier, or had listened to, or had known was there earlier. If you have concerns, this is a flow chart literally of who you go to if you have a concern of any type for your child. So say they're having a question about academics. First, you go check with your teacher, check Skyward and email the teacher with the concern. If that doesn't work, you take it to the next level. And it has that for academics, if they're having trouble with peers or social emotional issues, trouble with teachers, and what the tree is for that. And then also any athletic concerns. So instead of, I'm a parent, my child has a problem, I'm going to email the principal, this actually gives you a process to follow and who to go to first for how to get answers to different types of questions that your child may be having. All right, so summer planning. So the front office will open in August, and sports packets will be due. A lot of the sports will actually have summer workouts if you're in a fall sport. So hopefully if you're in a fall sport, you've been getting connected with that group. There is band camp happens the last 2 weeks of summer. That's a really big thing at the stadium. Sports Hell Week for the sporting groups will happen as well. And then, as Stacy mentioned at the beginning, our Fee and Photo Day, Stacy, is it August 24th and 25th?
Yes, it's the 24th and 25th, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So that will be, and hopefully you'll be familiar with that. It is very similar to the middle school. There's a little bit of a different format, but it is the same idea where you come through and get your ASB card and send it for your yearbook and pay all of your fees and all of that. So get your textbooks. So that is, that's towards the end of August. Okay, so our sports, our fall sports, we have got our fall sports here. Our winter sports, I'll just leave them up for a minute so you can take a look. Our spring sports, as you can see, we've got a lot of options at the high school, lots of different sporting programs, a little bit of something for everyone, which is great. We have both cut and non-cut sports. There are sports that if you want to participate, no matter what, there's a spot for you on that team, which is amazing. And then we also have cut sports, which means there are a certain number of spots available and there is a tryout. Our year-round sports are cheerleading and drill team, and their tryouts are in April this season, before that season starts, or before that next year starts. In addition to sports, we've got something a little bit for everyone. We've got performing arts. There's drama, band, jazz band, orchestra, choir. We've got a lot of different clubs. There's school-sponsored clubs. You've got yearbook, radio, newspaper, robotics, and all of those are actually classes. They are curriculum that your child can take, but then there are also clubs involved with those. The non-curricular sports examples, and these are just examples because the list is actually really long. There's National Honor Society, there's athletics, there's arts clubs. And then in addition to the school-sponsored, any student that would like to create a club can as well. And so we have a lot of student initiated clubs. Some examples are the Harry Potter Club, the Be Kind Club, Students Against Cancer, Magic the Gathering Club. So those are just a few examples. And there is a process that the students follow if they have an idea or an interest. There's an administrative process that they follow, but they can get a club up and going if there's one that they don't see already and there's a need that they would like to, a space that they would like to fill with that. So lots of opportunities. And then in addition to the clubs and opportunities, I just want to take a minute and mention CREST. CREST is a scholastic program that is an accredited high school program, that it's an alternative to the traditional high school pathways. So this is a more personalized program. You're going to have lots of more project-based and an individualized student plan for your students. It is, there's a separate building and it's actually located right next to our administration building. And fantastic programs and opportunities at CREST that are offered. All right.
Okay, so here's the map kind of the school. Well, not kind of, it's a map of the school, but a quick tour of the buildings. So the gym is right, well, Debbie, I don't know if they can see my pointer. The gym is here, and then the stadium is off to the left of there. So let's go to the school. We'll go to the hallways. So typically the 100 hallways, which is down at the bottom, is the sciences classes. And then going up from there, the 200 hallway is mostly English and social studies. And then the 300s above that is the foreign languages, business, and health. And then the 400 hallway, which runs vertically to those three hallways, are the math classes. And then above all of those is the 500 wings, which is the arts. So band, orchestra are on the south side, and then pottery, photography, and visual arts would be on the north side of that. And then the parking lots. So there's quite a few different ones. There's a staff parking lot in the back of the school, and that has an entrance to the Performing Arts Center as well as the Commons. And then the main parking lot in the front of the school has staff parking as well as visitor parking. And there's also a band parking lot to the east side of the Performing Arts wing. So yeah, the high school 4. And then for student parking, there is the C lot, which is right off the stadium. And then there's also the lot that is right behind Northwood, which is not shown on this map. So for drop off and pickup, there's a loop right in front of the school. So you see 42nd Street is that main street running alongside of the school. You would turn in, and then the main entrance of the school would be right to your right as you pull in. And then that's where you drop off and pick up. Yep. And then visitor parking. Oh, yeah. So actually, Debbie, if you want to go to the next slide. Okay, so that gives you a picture of, so the front of the school and the roundabout. So it's between the flagpole and the front of the school is the loop. And then the next slide. So visitor parking. So there's not a lot. We've got 15 spaces, so it fills up pretty quickly, especially if they're assembly days or days where a lot of parents tend to go. So just please be mindful of this, because the rest of that parking lot is staff parking. So we please don't want to park in those spaces. And then let's see. Oh, so yeah. So please don't park in the staff parking. Okay, so this is the front of the school. This is the main entrance. And to the left of that is the vestibule entrance that everyone uses. So that's the vestibule entrance. And so once school starts, all the doors in the schools are locked. So the only entrance that anyone can go through once those doors are locked is through this vestibule. So here you'll need to sign in with your driver's license, which I'm probably sure you're all pretty familiar with doing at the other schools. So, and then one other note, it is just to let you know that for freshmen, it's a closed campus. They cannot leave for lunch or go home during the school and come back. However, the older classes are allowed to do that. So this is the common entrance with the amphitheater. And then the front hall. So if we want to go, then that's the front hall right off the vestibule, right off the front entrance. And then the front office is right off here, just down the hall, right here.
And speaking of the front office, the main office, here is our front office staff. And so we have, Urena is Walter Kelly's administrative assistant. And so she is his administrative assistant. And then Susan Robinson and Amanda Como are our two main office secretaries, just so that you can sort of put a face with a name. When you come into the vestibule, as Stacy mentioned, Amanda, at least in the past, has been the one sitting at that main entrance as you come in and greeting you. So Amanda is who you'll see as you come in. And then our administration. So our principal is Walter Kelly. He's just finished his first year as our brand new principal. He comes to us from Texas with a lot of experience and he brings a lot of ideas and experience from Texas. So it's been great getting an opportunity to get to know him and for him getting to know the school, especially once everyone started in person this spring. I'm sure that made things a little bit easier. And then so we have 3 associate principals. One of our positions is an open position right now. One of our current associate principals is actually moving. So we do have an open position. The associate principals divide duties and they also divide names of the alphabet. So this open position is going to be over the Bridges program. And then also, if you have a student with your last name of A through I, this is the associate principal that you would go to if you needed to direct an issue with a principal or had a question. Nick Wold is over ASB and the activities coordinator. And he has student last names J through R. He's been with us for several years. And Lisa Dean is also completing her first year. So she's moving into her second year with us at the high school. And she is over special education and assessment and student last names S through Z. So that is our administrative staff. And then, and as you come in, you've seen the main office. And so next to that, as you head down the hall, you'll see the attendance office. And this is where I mentioned WAMOs. This is where those get turned in. So just physical view of the desk that those get turned in at. Also, almost any attendance form comes to the attendance office. The ASB office, Associative Student Body is what ASB stands for. I know there's been a little bit of that in middle school. That becomes very, the ASB it's a great separate student group at the high school that does a lot of really neat stuff. And so stuff that was merged with PTA, a lot of it does really get separated out between ASB and PTA at the high school level. So the ASB office, your student will get an ASB card, and it is a mandatory card because they use it for identification for your student. It's about $70 a year, I believe, at the high school. That ASB card will get you into all home athletics meets. So any games and any sporting events that are home, your student will get in free and they'll get a discount when they go to away games. And then for clubs and things like that, it's required. So the ASB office, any course fees that happen that are at the school, athletic fees, library fines, most of these now we've thankfully, most of these you can also go into your online account and pay online through the school. But if you do want to go in and pay physically, the ASB office is where you would take care of those. Okay. The athletic office is across the street, across the hallway. And Becky Lemaster is our athletic secretary. She collects all athletic forms. Kyle McKenna is our athletic coordinator. And so that's the two of them. One note on the athletics before I move forward is for athletics at the high school, your child will be required to turn in a physical form, and that the actual physical is required every 2 years. So once they get it, it's good for 2 years of the date that they get that physical. And so every 2 years, just put it on your calendar. You want to just kind of keep a heads up with that because you don't want the date to have passed and be caught off guard if your student is in the middle of a sporting season. So just something to sort of keep in mind for that. Okay, so our resources room referral, our youth and family services counselors. We have Chris Harnish and Ariel, and they are here for any social emotional. And I know Walter Kelly was talking about really, especially as part of our social emotional recovery this coming year, really having them be a key part of that. But as parents and as students, Chris is a trained drug and alcohol counselor. If you are having trouble with anxiety or worried that your child is having trouble transitioning into high school, these two are on hand and can be contacted for help and for assistance with that. So we're really lucky to have them. Here is the counseling, the academic. So we have youth and family services counselors. And then this is the academic counseling office. And I will turn this one over to Stacy. No, I won't yet because Kristen Britnall with the academic counseling office, she is the academic counseling secretary. So if your students need to make an appointment to see a counselor, or if you would like to make an appointment to see one of your child's academic counselors, Kristen is who that goes through. So here we go.
Okay, so says tonight is not about academics. So our academic counselors help, of course, with academics. We know that, of course, but they're also a great resource for stress management, anxiety, and how our kids are adjusting to school as well. I know from personal experience that for my kids, our counselor has been great in helping them in all aspects and not just in academics. So just speaking from experience. So your counselor is based on the first name of your last name. And it's really important that your child gets to know them because they will hopefully be with them throughout the 4 years at the school. And so and then another note is while your students can do walk-ins, we do recommend that they make an appointment because the counselors are always really pretty busy. But on top of that, or just on that note, one thing to know is one thing that's really nice is that we have the counselor of the day at the high school. So each day there's a counselor that's available in the commons during lunch or on off periods. So students can drop by and talk to them and ask their questions and whatnot. So next is, so that was counselor of the day. So this is, so our school nurse is Shelly Shea, and then library is Sarah Brew. And then just on the next slide, so if you enter into the library, just to the right, there'll be a door, and that is our library presentation room. And it's otherwise known as the RPR. So if you ever hear about a meeting being in the RPR, That's the library presentation room. So a lot of our PTSA meetings, academic meetings, parent meetings, sports meetings, things like that will be held in this room.
All right, next we have the PAC, the Commons and the PAC. The Commons area is, we showed you the front of that outside. I know it's really hard to get a sense for things, seeing it in 2 dimensions, but this is the inside of the PAC. This is where a lot of students hang out during the day if they have a free period and at lunch. And so it's just sort of that general area for them. Our PAC stands for our Performing Arts Center, and drama, band, choir, orchestra, those groups all perform in this building. And you may have been in there. There are a lot of community events and things held in this space as well. We have an amazing an award-winning, I should say, radio broadcast program at the high school, led by Joe Bryant as our staff member. And if you haven't tuned in, it's 88.9 KIMH, The Bridge is the radio station. So if you haven't had an opportunity, I would highly recommend going in and checking that out. It's an amazing program. He does a phenomenal job with his students. And this is actually a class that you can take at the high school, and it's just a really great program. Then this is the fine arts and the music wing of the school. We've got band, orchestra, and choir. And so this is just a glimpse into what the inside of that area looks like. Our gyms, we have several gyms. We have a main gym, we have a weight room, we have a practice gym, and we have a gymnastics room. So, and these doors, these gymnasium doors are right off the commons area, and the PAC is off the commons as well. So you've got this just main area, and then it overflows into a couple of different spaces. Our fabulous security liaisons, we have Marcus Tibbs and Kelly John Lewis. You'll see them floating around the high school, keeping things in order. And so just so that you know, those are their friendly faces. So that brings us to the end of our official sort of orientation part. So what I would like to do right now is take a minute to have our panel introduce ourselves. And again, as Stacy mentioned at the beginning, you may have joined us since, but we encourage you to use Q&A to please ask questions. We would love to be able to share different parent perspectives and help answer any questions that you may be having. So if you could please use a Q&A function and send us any questions that you have that we can help with. So I will start. My name is Debbie Burke, and I have 3 children. I have one who just finished her freshman year of college, and then I have a junior at the high school, so he's a rising senior, and I have a rising 8th grader at the middle school. So I have all 3 of those, and some of the activities that my children have been involved in at the high school, drill team, and I've had football and lacrosse and radio, and we've sort of spilled into a couple of different club areas. So that's me. So let's see, why don't I just call on people so that we know who's going next? I know this Zoom can be a little awkward. Sherry, let's hear from you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Debbie. I have a senior that just graduated, and he was involved in tennis, and he actually, along with a couple of his friends, started a club, an investment club, which was great. And then I have a rising junior, and he was involved in SWIVE, so he actually dove for the swim team, and also involved in band.
Thank you. Thanks, Sherry. Rika.
Okay, I have a daughter that just also finished her freshman year, and she was involved in tennis, and she wasn't a big sports person, but she tried a lot of sports out. She tried SWIVE, and she enjoyed that. She did basketball C team, which she really enjoyed, just being part of a team, and she tried gymnastics and didn't make it after Helvey because she was like, it's not for me. And Petrie was another club she was involved in. And I also have a freshman that's finishing up this year, and she did basketball, JV, and Petrie also as a club.
Great. Thanks, Rika. Stacy, I'm just moving down my line on my screen. So
Okay. So hi, I'm Stacey Nakata. So I have a son who graduated out, but he was he did band, Destination Imagination, jazz band. And then I have a senior who just graduated. She's drill team, did gymnastics, did women in STEM, did a lot of different clubs at the high school. I can't remember the names of all of them. National Honor Society too. And then I have a 7th grader, rising 8th grader. So 1 year out of high school, then we'll be back.
thank you. Carolyn.
Hi, so I have a daughter who graduated a couple years ago, and she was very involved in drill and women in STEM and Honor Society, DECA, and a variety of the clubs. And then I have a son who's at the high school. He's a junior, rising senior, and his passion is in the radio program. He's also basketball, soccer, and Spanish Honor Society. He's very into foreign language. So just a wide spectrum of different ideas.
Thank you. And Greta.
Hi there, I'm Greta Stednick. I'm the old lady in the group. I have only graduates now. My son graduated in 2018. He was mostly into, he was served on the library, the teen advisory board for the King County Library on Mercer Island, which was a great, sorry about that, a great experience for him. Also National Honor Society, did band for a couple of years. It wasn't really his bag once he got to high school, but it was fun for the first 2 years he did it. And he's at the UW now. And my daughter just graduated this year. She did cross country and lacrosse, and she's going to play lacrosse in college next year. She did Girl Scouts outside and a little bit of NCL as well, but cross country was the deep passion. And if anyone's interested in cross country, I would highly recommend it.
Great. Thank you. Okay, I'm stopping share. So our panelists are going to now actually all come up on our screen. So there are a few questions here. So I'll just start off reading the first question, and then our panelists feel free to chime in and answer these if it feels like you have something you'd like to share. So one of these is, will bus routes be the same as before the pandemic?
My understanding is that the Metro is not going to be serving the high school, but I don't know that 100%. So it may be the same as what you're experiencing now, where MISD bus drivers are going to be having routes. But for sure, I'm sure someone will reach out about that as we get closer to the school year.
Thanks, Greta. And I think that one may not need various parent perspectives. So thanks for filling us in on that. Okay, so here's another one. What are the options if we will be out of town on the back to school day?
I can offer, there's a makeup day usually in the first part of September. Stacy may have more details, but it just means they pick up their books and get their ASB card a little bit later.
All right. Great. Okay, here's one. What is Sport Hell Week?
What I was referring to when my daughter was doing for gymnastics, it was just a really intensive week of working out and training. I think it was maybe 2 hours a day for 6 days a week, and it just ended up not being for her. And I know with SWIVE, it was also I think it was a 1 to 2 week of real intensive training. And sometimes the kids decide, you know what, I love it, or this is not going to be my jam. So
I think it sometimes is a rude awakening for kids coming to the high school that if they do a sport, it is every day. It's not a couple of days a week. It's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every day, 2 hours, depending on what the coach wants, and maybe some stuff on Saturdays. So it is a little bit of a different commitment. And that's kind of why I guess I would recommend if your kid is interested in a cut sport, also have them look at a no cut sport, because there's just different levels of intensity, and it's then they can still be part of the team regardless.
And something else to mention with that too is vacations, just so you know, depending on the time, depending on the season. So if you're in the winter season and your child is doing a sport in the winter season, probably shouldn't plan for midwinter break. There could be practices midwinter break. There could be practices over the holiday break in December, and then same with spring break in the spring for the spring sport. So just know that that's out there. Sometimes it's not necessarily required, but I think it's really highly encouraged. So just be aware.
One other suggestion on sports is almost every sport has a booster club that is run by a set of parents. And almost every booster club has a website that's active now. So for example, I can only speak to the sports that my kids are involved in, but like for soccer, if you have a child that you think might want to play soccer next year, girls soccer is in the fall, boys soccer is in the spring, you would want to go into the MIHS soccer website and just and log in as interested, or sign up as interested. And then that way you get added to the website and you'll get the communications as they come out. And then you would know when the practices are and when the tryouts are, and you'd have all the information for your specific sport. But it's not too early to do that, because most of the sports, especially for the fall, those sports have practices during the summer. And they're starting, a lot of them are starting next week when school's out. No, don't panic. That doesn't mean you're late by any means. It just means those are optional practices that you can attend. And then the Hell Week symbolizes the transition from optional to mandatory. And that's what happens in every sport. I saw someone with a question that said, is it only for fall sports? And the answer to that is no. Every sport, as they transition from optional to mandatory, has, and I don't know that we use the phrase Hell Week anymore. I think it's the transitional week now. But that is what they call it. And then once you're into the mandatory stage, then what Sherry said is true, which is where you're then locked into their dates. And if you're trying to travel or something like that, the coach does have the right to tell you that you can't travel and be on the team. So those are things to pay attention to. And one resource for that is the school calendar. It's out and you can already see what the breaks are, what they're not. And it operates on a different system than the elementary and the high school, middle school, sorry.
One thing about the school calendar, and Debbie, you can maybe check this out. It has been updated and we got an update from the principal, but I don't know if it was updated on the website because somebody had said to me it wasn't. I know Christmas or holiday break is different now. On the old calendar, it was starting the 23rd of December. Now it's starting the Saturday before. So I'm not sure if it's been updated on the website, but I know it was sent out to high school parents.
Yeah, thank you, Rika. That's a really good point. And when I looked at it on the district site, it was correct. So looking, I'm not sure which calendar they were looking at, but on the Mercer Island School District site, looking at that calendar, it did have winter break listed correctly when I looked at it last. So maybe they
19th then? Is that the correct?
Yes. Okay. So there's 2 full weeks. They did it to keep it within the weekend boundaries because before it was scheduled Wednesday to Wednesday. And so they did it to make it a cleaner break. So yes, thank you.
And just a quick on fall sports too, just to keep in mind fall sports and then back to school days, it's probably good to just be around by mid-August. I know band camp starts August 16th and it's pretty critical for those that are in band to be there that entire week. So just kind of in the back of your mind, I think some other sports start that week as well. So if you can get all your vacations in before that week of August 16th, I think that would be good and less stress.
Yes, that's a really good point. There's a lot.
I think that's a good point on academics as well. I noticed the honors and the AP classes. So for freshmen, it would be honors classes, honors English and some of the others. They do have summer assignments and those assignments are posted now. They're on some of the websites. They'll start coming out this next couple of weeks. But if you have kids that are signed up for honors English, or I believe it's honors physics and chemistry, they do have things due on the first day of school. So it is important that if you're signed up for those things that you start to pay attention to the website. I think the website's probably the most helpful tool if you go and explore over the summer a little bit and see what's there. But that speaks to that vacation piece. I think that's one of the biggest transitions to high school, is that you don't miss school anymore. You really try to schedule your vacations around vacation times, and your school is during the school week, because you just can't, the things you miss, the teachers are no longer forgiving and the coaches are no longer forgiving, and vacation is not an excused absence. So that was a shock to me.
Yes, that was a big change too a few years ago. And when it changed for the whole district, but where it really became impactful was at the high school level, because that's where it really starts to count. So yes. Okay, is there a day when the incoming freshmen get to walk around the school before the first day? I will say in the past there has been, and I know we're in a really weird period of time right now. So traditionally in the spring, there is a day that the 8th graders are bused over to the high school, and they are allowed to actually tour the school. This last year, while we were in virtual learning, after school started, the high school divided the 8th graders into the incoming freshmen into 3 different groups, and they staggered an opportunity for them to come in and safely be able to tour the school that way. This spring, I know there was an alternative event that the middle school offered for students, but I am not sure right now if there is going to be a live walk around. I haven't heard anything. Stacy, have you heard anything along those lines?
Sorry, I had to unmute. No, I haven't heard either. And we were at the calendar meeting and they hadn't scheduled anything for that yet. So I think they'll probably wait closer to the date to know whether or not, like, whatever the restrictions will be and how they can make that happen is my guess. Yeah.
So look for communication, for future communication regarding that. There has not been anything set at this point, but traditionally there is, and last year I know there was an opportunity for the students to get to do that. It is really helpful for the freshmen. It may be attached to the fee and photo days. They may have, the freshmen are that first group, so they may attach it to that event for the freshmen and lengthen that for them and let them actually come through and have an opportunity to get oriented with the school on that day. But nothing concrete has been set yet, but look for information because hopefully something will be coming. Okay.
Oh, and just one quick thing on that too. I think it is super important because the high school, I mean, I get lost there all the time, and I'm a senior and a rising senior. It's a big school, especially coming from, IMS, which is pretty manageable. So I would definitely encourage, if there is an official day, definitely during that fee and photo day or at other opportunities, definitely make sure that your student gets comfortable walking around, because not only is it confusing, it's really big. So it's hard to get from one class to the next. So just to have the best route to do that would be important for them.
So just on that note, so if there is a freshman tour day and it can happen in person and everything kind of happens as it should, do really make a point to make the curriculum nights, because, and if you can do it with your student, I would recommend it, because then they'll know where their classes are exactly and the route that they need to take, and you will physically walk those with them. So that was always really helpful for my kids.
Mm-hmm. All right. Another what if, I believe we've answered this, but another what if my student misses the 24th and 25th photo pickup days? And I think we've answered that one. There is a makeup day offered after school starts for any students who haven't. So let's see. Let's move to, where can I find a full club list? There is a list. I will see if I can find it while we are chatting. I'm going to ask the next question, and then I will go see if I can find a link to that list for you while we're continuing to talk about some other questions. So I'll find the link, and I'm going to start us with the next question while I'm doing that. And that is, do we need to get a personal laptop or iPad for our freshmen?
So no, the district will provide those.
I just would throw out there, the district provides the iPad. High school was the transition in our family for both of our children to get a laptop. We did not have laptops for our kids in the middle school, but in high school, the reason being all the typing. We found that typing papers and, using the resources on the laptop were easier for them, or some people get a keyboard for the iPad. That's another option, but there's a lot more, it's hard to hunt and peck on an iPad in high school because you're doing things in class, and some of the kids would take the iPad to school, but use the laptop at home. So whatever works best for your family, it's certainly not mandatory, but it is kind of a nice opportunity for them to kind of grow in how they use technology.
All right, thank you. And while we were answering that, I did find the site. I'm going to attempt some new technology, not new to me. I'm going to try to screen share and show you where this is at, because it's actually on the Mercer Island site. Can everybody see? Are you looking at the Mercer Island High School site? Is it showing you that? Okay, great. So if you go to this height and go to its activities and then clubs. So let me go back. Let's see. I was going to try to show you how to get there, but I just Googled it. I literally Googled Mercer Island clubs, and but it's on the site, and you go to activities and then you go to clubs. So if you look down here, there's literally a link. And if I scroll down, here are all of the clubs. So when we said there's a comprehensive list, there truly is. And then there's a link here that has list of active clubs. And then this tells you literally the club, the advisor's name, and time and location of when those clubs meet. So there is really a comprehensive, and if you see, these are the active clubs that are at the high school right now. So hopefully that helps. So go to the website, Mercer Island High School website, activities, and then clubs. And these links are all right there for you. Okay. What are the fall no-cut sports? Those are
Cross country for sure. It's a great experience in cross country. It's co-ed. Anybody can do it, no matter whether you're fast or slow or awkward or graceful. Anyone can do it. Susan Empey is the greatest coach of all time. I highly recommend cross country, and it's no-cut sport.
great.
I think Swive was. My daughter did it, and she's not a swimmer. So she wasn't cut. So I don't think it's cut.
I'm trying to see.
There we go. Both boys and girls.
I believe football is also no cut. I think everybody that would like to play football has an opportunity to be on that team as well. I think there's a few. It's hard to think of exactly which ones they are. I know golf is cut, tennis is cut. Might be easier to name the ones we know are cut sports, but okay, so hopefully that helps. Let me see. Someone asked again, the back to school day in August. There are two, August 24th and August 25th. Okay. What is the one thing first-time high school kids should know? What's the best first year of advice to a parent? The thing that you wish you knew then that you know now?
I guess I'll launch in. I think that one thing it's good to remind your kid is that I don't know if there's an answer for it though, because they're going to want to compare themselves, and they're going to want to tell you that everybody's getting an A, or everybody's taking an AP class, or everybody's doing something, and obviously not everybody is. But that's something that I ran up against with both my kids, just kind of this expectation. Like I felt like I didn't put on them to have great grades, but they felt like it was coming from around them, from their peers, that everybody's doing, so great. So you just make sure you balance that for them with reality, and that their experience doesn't have to be the same as everybody else's, and they will come to find it's not the same as everybody else's, hopefully, as well. So I feel like that's maybe what I would help a freshman with.
I definitely agree with Greta. I had one daughter that was adamant, I have to do honors and this and that because everybody was doing it and it wasn't a good fit for her. And we really had to work with her that just wasn't for her. But she was adamant that everybody was doing it, and really everybody isn't. And so that's what she felt, but it wasn't the reality. And then also high school, and you kind of probably started this for middle school, is just stepping back and letting them be their own advocate with their teachers. And if they struggle and have a question, is step back, let them talk to their teachers. And if it's continuing struggling, you can kind of help them and come in, but they need to learn how to advocate for themselves and work through it before off to college.
Yes. In addition, I
Go
would say find a good, sorry, Sherry. I would say find a group. There are so, like we've been talking a lot about activities, clubs, and sports, and it's because if they can find a group that they feel like that they connect with, that is going to really make a difference with that high school experience and really enrich that experience at the school. Whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's any kind of a club, there's DECA, and there are so many different opportunities. And I think that finding a place and feeling like you fit the high school can be really overwhelming. And it's easy to feel lost. And so making your world a little bit smaller with some of those special interests can really help.
I would agree. And, I know, most kids are probably struggling a little bit with the pandemic. They didn't see their friends like they normally would have over the last year. And they might be feeling like they've kind of, they don't have the strong friend groups that they used to have. But I would encourage them, to Debbie's point, get involved in what interests you. And it's amazing how, even though these kids have been with each other, some of them since probably before kindergarten, you actually grow and change and actually probably meet new people. I know my younger son, when he went into the high school, he goes, I know everyone I could possibly know. I have my friend group. I'm not going to meet anyone new. And honestly, by the end of last year, he had a completely new friend group. He still had his old friends, but he had, blossomed into band and was really involved in band and loved that, and found a group of people that also love that. So just know that, if your kids are feeling funny about COVID and not connecting with their friends, there's a great opportunity when they hit high school to, create a whole new friend group.
I might come at this. Oh, go ahead.
I know, all I was just going to say is that they don't necessarily stay within that grade. So a lot of these groups, the older kids actually will come in and mentor. And so you have some mentors and some opportunities to look forward to associations with some of the older grades as well, which is great. Sorry, Carolyn, go ahead.
No, not at all. I may come at this from a little bit of a different lens, which is I think now is the time to step in, not step out. And I understand the idea that I support exactly what Rick is talking about. When it comes to your child working with their teacher, of course, the email, the conversation, the grade, whatever, it goes from your child to your teacher. But I think as a parent, I've heard so many parents of freshmen say, well, now he's off to high school, he's on his own. And I would remind you that they're 14 to 15-year-old kids, and they're not necessarily ready, because the reason I would say that, if you get into a hole in your freshman year, your grades tank, you don't find a social group that you like, or you really want to try out for such and such a team and you missed the deadline to try out because the information was hard to find and you didn't know when tryouts were. That can be sometimes really upsetting to kids. And so then that puts them kind of further back. And so I'm not saying you need to do any of it for them, but I will say it has been more difficult than I expected over these last years to find some of the dates and deadlines that I wish I had known. For example, there was that April, I have a daughter who does drill team, April drill team tryout date. It was hard to find when that date is and where is it. And there's no way that my daughter on her very own could have gone to the school website, figured out what club, what day, what time, filled out the form, turned it in, gotten the physical. There are pieces for parents in this. So I would say, when it comes to the academics, yes, by all means, the kids, need to manage that themselves. But when it comes to some of these systematic things, turning in forms, paperwork, I would say step in, don't step out, because it's hard to navigate all of this alone for these kids.
but somehow they do figure out this whole block schedule, and I have not figured that out yet, but they do. So that is one thing that I just let them deal with because they knew much more than I did about that block schedule.
So just to go along with what Carolyn said, I would agree, because with my kids, at least in my experience with the academics, they had that all down. But when it came to anything, I mean, like with athletics or extra band things or, you know, gymnastics or drill things, there was always little loose ends. So it's good to make sure you're following up on that paperwork, because and those deadlines, because some of those are really hard deadlines, and if your kids miss those, then they won't get to participate, and it can be really, really disappointing. So just make sure you catch all of those too. So it's just be their safety net, I think, is kind of what that message is.
And you can do that a lot by talking to other parents too. One thing that was difficult for me, and I just kind of put that as a tickler out there for other, and I've told other people, is National Honor Society. They do not make it easy to find out how to sign up for National Honor Society. So everyone put that on your calendars for sophomore year. I would say put on your calendars for January and follow up with your counselor. When I did it for my older son, you know, the forms were outdated, they're from previous years. So just, you know, continue to follow up on that, because that is not one that's really obvious. And once you miss that deadline, you miss it. There's not much you can do.
All right, thank you. If everyone's ready, we'll move and see what comes next here. Let's see. My son, sorry, there's a truck going by. I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, I'll try that again. My son wants to do cross country in the fall. Do they need to sign up now?
Yeah, I think they probably do have signups now, and Susan Empey you could reach out to her directly. I can put her, it's just susan.empey@mercerislandschools.org, or you could also go to their booster site, like Carolyn, I think, was saying earlier. There's a booster club, MIHS booster club, because over the summer she will plan practices or pod groups where the kids can start to get to know each other and do some running. And it's just a great way to kind of ramp up their fitness before it hits hardcore in August. And they usually do some fun events as well. So I would say go to the Booster Club website or email Susan Empey directly.
Thanks, Greta. Okay, what's the function for ASB officers at the high school?
ASB officers plan events. So every class, each class has a set of officers. They're the leadership team. So it's a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So the freshman class incoming will have elected those people. They probably already have coming in. And then, so that's 12 leaders, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, each have 4. And then in addition, there's 5 ASB leaders, I believe 5, it might be 6. And there's a ASB president, vice president. So those people lead all of the leaders from the other class. They're kind of the executive board, if you will. And they work with the administration and decide, you know, when is homecoming dance going to be? When is prom? You know, what's the homecoming parade going to look like? What would be a fun spirit day to have? You know, should we all dress in maroon and white, or should we, you know, have a theme? They bring spirit to the school. They bring leadership. And I would say, more importantly than anything, they're probably the student voice that gets to the administration to be able to say, you know, this is working really well for us, or this is not working as well. But there's opportunities for leadership along the way. And those elections take place. So the ASB officers have been elected for next year, and those take place in the spring. And those are, again, one of those things that by the time they're ASB officers, they've figured it out, because that's going into senior year, or junior, senior year. But certainly as freshman parents, it's one of those things, if your child's interested in leadership, just identify who the resources are and kind of, you know, subscribe to their various information so that you stay attuned to their dates.
Thank you. And the advisors over at ASB, Carolyn mentioned. So Toby Swanson is currently the ASB advisor, and then Nick Wold is the administrator who is over ASB right now, so that you know who those resources are. All right. What are some things your children struggled with freshman year, and what advice do you have about them?
Sleep. Without a doubt, sleep. The schedule change is significant, where homework loads are more, and they manage these after school sports or other clubs. So I would say setting up your family life, and especially coming out of the pandemic where we've maybe been less structured. I think going back into the fall, that will be a surprise to everybody, is what does a 5-day school week look like, and how do we actually get enough rest to manage that?
Mm-hmm.
And time management too, just helping them think through what it is that they need to do. How can they block off time on their calendar to get it done? We have a family calendar, and so I'll put, whatever kind of family things that we have on the calendar. If I know there's a tennis lesson or a band performance, I'll put that on the calendar. If I know that and then the kids actually put, when they're working, they put that on the family calendar, so we can all kind of manage that together and help each other out. So I would say just, helping them with time management is key.
I would say also, and I know this was mentioned earlier, but it's that balance of the schedule. So it's the making sure that you feel like you're in the right, take honors classes if you're an honors student. But if you know you don't want to spend 8 hours a night on homework, maybe pick 2 honors courses instead of taking honors in every subject. So finding that balance of having a rigorous schedule versus having time to do that, plus do the activities, is really important. Getting a good grade sometimes is a great thing. Give yourself, I would say with your freshmen, with schedule wise, give them a couple of easy A's. I mean, just give them ones that they know that they have confidence with, so that they're not feeling so overwhelmed all the time about the school schedule itself. And I think that helps the activities be more enjoyable. It helps them balance their time a little bit. And then after the first semester or two, even after the first semester, they have sort of a sense for how they operate, and they can really see realistically, what do these really look like, and how do I fit? And am I really an 8 period honor student, or 7, because I guess 8 is island or hour, but or should I mix it up a little bit more to give myself some balance? So
Also think letting your kids decide if there's things that they don't want to do, even if there are things you want them to do. For instance, my daughter, we joined NCL in middle school, and it was manageable to do all the other things and that. But when we got to high school, it just became too much for her. And I asked her basically, what would you cut in your schedule? And she came back with NCL. And I was like, no, because I enjoyed it. I don't like to quit things. I didn't want her to quit something either. And I kind of struggled with myself about letting her decide. It's not her passion. It's not something that she wanted to do. And so I said, okay, well, we're out. And I found that it made her feel like she was involved in that process, right? Because it's something she didn't want to do, and that I honored it. And it gave her some freedom to do things that she really wanted to do instead. And I also found that in going through 2 college application processes now with 2 kids, I kind of felt too that you needed to have a really full resume, be like and I'm in everything, and I'm like vice president of this and that and whatever. What a college wants to see, I think, at least that's what I've learned in the last 2 with my 2 kiddos, is some depth. So if there's something that they're passionate about, that they can really speak to, that they can put all their time in, like I didn't do 200 activities, but I spent a lot of time on these 2 things that meant a lot to me. That's going to go a lot further than doing too much. And so I think letting yourself let them make some of those choices is good for everybody. So.
okay. Let's see. Do any of your children participate in non-high school sponsored athletics? Example, ballet at the Pacific Northwest Ballet.
I had a daughter that danced for backstage dance, and she danced 6 days a week and every day for, 2 to 4 hours after school. And that was in addition to drill team at school and in addition to homework. And that is a tricky system. My answer for that, or my thought on that, is it works if they're passionate about it, and if it's their choice, and if it's something that they really want to balance. It means you miss a few things, you miss, like for her, she missed certain sporting events for other teams because she couldn't go. But it was a trade-off, and it was a balance. And then the schoolwork as well, you have to build that in. So I would say it's possible. It's absolutely possible. And there's a lot of kids that do things outside of school. There's a great mountain bike club that isn't with the school, but it's kids from the school. There's other programs, Eastside FC soccer, there's Crossfire soccer, there's, Dragons baseball. There's all these things that kids do outside of school, for sure. It just means balancing it all and trying to kind of put the puzzle pieces together to see if there's enough hours in the day and leaving time to eat and have friends and sleep. So it's possible.
I think you covered that. Thanks, Carolyn. Crew is another one that I'm thinking of that a lot of high school kids participate with that's outside. So there absolutely are a lot of outside, not sponsored by the high school, activities that a lot of students at the high school do participate in. So, all right. Let's see. How do the kids know about honors assignments?
For the summer, those are going to be on the school website. The Schoology accounts have them if they're just coming out. I've seen a couple come through for the English program already, and they will come, especially at the freshman level. I think that they're sending them out to the older kids because they're used to that system. But for the freshman level, I'm sure that those teachers will get in touch later in the year, or you can go onto the website and probably look under the various schools, or academic programs, but they are available before school.
All right, adding on to the last question, curious about workload. My daughter dances, so this is, my daughter dances 5 days a week, 2 to 4 hours a day. So Carolyn, I think this was asked before you got an opportunity to answer, but I think you absolutely gave a great example of this exact scenario. But anyone else have anything to add about that? Okay. I am on the website and would like to try and find a map of the high school, but I can't find it. Can you let me know where to find one? Let's see. I can go search.
I don't know if
you know where one is, Stacey?
Actually on the website, and I think that was for safety purposes, if I remember correctly.
I think you're correct. I remember they don't put them in directories and on websites for safety purposes.
But
I think the freshmen might get it at the beginning of the year, because my freshman did walk around with her map for a while when she started school.
And we know we did a fabulous presentation with all the pictures of everything, so you should now know exactly how to get her from high school. Just kidding. I know it can be really confusing, but the students actually should get one. Hopefully they can share that with you. That actually makes sense that it's not published for protection. Okay, let's see. Is curriculum night before school starts? The curriculum nights are they're in October, September, late September-ish. I know that the district coordinates, and I was just on the meeting, but I can't think of what the dates were. We actually did set them for the high school. I believe it's mid to late September. High schools tend to be after the other schools, and we specifically do not overlap with the elementary schools or the middle schools, so that parents with teachers at multiple schools can attend. So they will be in the fall after school starts. How and when do the students sign up for clubs? I want to say with that one, that list that I showed you, go onto the website, go to activities, go to clubs, and I would just reach out. If you're interested now, reach out to the advisor that's listed, because it's public information, the high school advisor that is over each of the clubs. So I would say if you find one, if you go and look anytime, and I don't think it's a closed thing. Like, I think if you're interested in a club and you discover it later, it's not too late. It's not like sports where there's a starting and an ending. But I would say if there's some that you know about now, it's not too early to reach out to those advisors and see what information you can get for those. So
just to follow on that too, it's like, even if the club has already started, like in the fall or whatnot, it's your student can still join. Like, there's no, like, just because they didn't get in right on the beginning or ahead of time, it doesn't mean that they can't join while it's already started. So and I think most of the clubs at the high school run that way.
And if your child is interested, just continue to reach out to the advisor. I know my son and his friends started a club, and there was someone else who wanted to get into it, and it might have been COVID, but it was a little unorganized, putting it together. And it could have been COVID. It could have been the first time they were meeting, but continue to just follow up on that to make sure that your child gets involved, and don't feel bad about being the squeaky wheel.
all right. Thank you. A very helpful comment here. Ultimate Frisbee is also no cut. So those of you looking for no cut sports. Let's see, we got that one. Is everyone going to be wearing masks for this school year? That is a great question. We wish we knew the answer to that. The current guidelines do state that masks will be worn. There's a lot of speculation that those guidelines could change. Our district has to operate within the parameters of the Washington State Health Guidelines. And so they are they're very diligently keeping on top of those for any new information that comes out. And I have heard that there's a possibility that things absolutely could change over the summer. So we wish we knew. Let's see. Can you show how to get to the sports websites you mentioned earlier? So the school does have a new athletic page, but I know that it's tricky to find each of the booster sites for the individual sports. Does anyone have any good advice on that? Like with where to find Swive or with where to find some of these soccer.
I suppose you could reach out directly to Kyle McKenna, who's the assistant athletic director, or anyway, Kyle is, if he could probably direct you to that information. So his email is just kyle.mckenna with 2 N's in it @mercerislandschools.org, and he can help you, I'm sure.
And just to piggyback on that, if Kyle can't help you, then Nick Wold can, because he oversees athletics along with Kyle. So it's nick.wold@mercerislandschools.org. So.
And if all else fails, and I know that this is very rudimentary, but I have literally in the Google bar searched Mercer Island cross country or Mercer Island football, and a lot of them are public and will come up. So it's hard for us to individually know every single one, just because we know probably the ones that our kids are involved in, but a lot of them actually will come up by searching. If you just search for that particular sport. I know that sounds really, I know that's a really elementary way to do it, but it really may get you connected there.
Yeah, and also just to make a point between boosters and the school, they are 2 different entities. So the school district and the boosters run on very different rules. And so the school doesn't necessarily oversee the boosters, and the boosters don't have any influence over the school sport. So just be aware of that. While everyone kind of knows everyone's contact information, there's a line between those. So just be aware of that.
Yes, and the Booster Club, one of their biggest functions is communication as well with parents. They're really good at getting out some of that information. So like Stacy said, definitely separate roles, but the Booster Clubs can be a great resource for helping make that connection and communicating out the information from the school. So, okay. Is everyone, oh, let's see. No, that one was already done. This one was answered, but is there a student body vote for becoming an ASB officer? And Carolyn covered that. There are elections every spring for the various class officers. And then so each class has officers, and then the high school has officers as well that cover each class. So like the senior class has senior class officers, and then there are also high school ASB officers that are officers of the whole school. So, let's see. Thank you. And there's a thank you. That brings me to the end of the questions that we've had so far. If anyone else has any last minute ones before we go, feel free to.
There are a couple questions in the chat.
Oh, there are. Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. And there was one more that came in. There was one. Oh, there's a couple more that have just come in. So Rika, let's go over to the chat. Will you read those for us? Let's flip over there for a second and make sure we catch those.
Okay, that was about the Booster Club for swim team. So you already had discussed that. Is there a debate team?
There is. They're an award-winning debate team. So I'm not sure exactly how to contact them, but again, it would be on that site.
Yes.
And then we have an incoming freshman who is a swimmer, which is from what we are being told is a winter sport. Does he still go to Hell Week? Is it a winter sport? I'm not sure.
It is a winter sport. Swive is winter. And like we said earlier, that everyone has their own. It wasn't Hell Week. It was something else. Transition.
Yeah.
Week. Yeah.
And
Thank
that's
you.
I want to say Swive usually starts in December, I think, and then goes state goes through February.
All right. Did we catch all of the chat ones, Rika?
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a couple more that have come in on our question and answer. Any words of wisdom about homecoming? This is a good one.
That's a very tricky question.
It is a tricky question. I can share with you what we know so far. So next year, we're in the time of COVID. So normal is not normal. Nothing is normal right now. But we don't exactly know what homecoming will look like this coming year. The high school has put dates on the calendar. They are hopeful that we will be able to have these events and we will have some version of homecoming, but we don't know exactly what it's going to be allowed to look like yet. So just so that you know, school is full time, but we don't know what the activities are going to be allowed to look like yet. But there is a commitment from our administration that we will have these events in some form. So, so games will be occurring. We believe will be in regular schedules. We don't know exactly what the restrictions will be around those yet, but homecoming is on the calendar. So it is being planned for. We don't know if if the kids will be able to dance or what that looks like exactly this spring. As Stacy mentioned, they held a prom-ish event for our seniors where they had an event out at the Newcastle Golf Club, but there was not actual dancing, but they dressed up and had a really nice formal evening for them. So,
So actually
so
there was dancing.
What's that?
There was actually dancing. They got to dance.
Oh, there was. Okay, because they were in their pod. Okay, great. Well, that's great. Originally, there was not dancing. There was a DJ. But
originally, there wasn't supposed to. Yeah.
Great.
They had fun.
So advice about homecoming. Girl, don't take it too seriously. Get with a group of friends that you enjoy. And especially as parents, chaperone. especially is with the freshman and sophomore groups. A lot of times there are parent drivers, there are parent chaperones. The traditional evening for homecoming is usually they're like the group, whatever size of group. It can be anything from, I mean, a couple can go on their own. At the high school, lots of big groups tend to like to go together. It makes it like you have a date, and that's in air quotes because sometimes it's actually someone you like, sometimes it's just a friend, and that's completely okay. Sometimes it's just someone that you're in the same friend group and you pair up for the dance. And so it doesn't have to be a boyfriend girlfriend situation. There's a lot of friend situations that can go and enjoy and have a great time. A lot of times they are big groups, up to 10 to 12 to 20 couples. And if it's that big of a group, usually it splits into two for part of the night, but there's pictures, there's dinner, they go to the school, they see each other, and then there's usually some sort of a party afterwards at someone's house or some type of gathering. There are actually groups that were anti-parties. So some groups went bowling at different times. There were groups that went and played laser tag. So it doesn't have to be a traditional, it's really what the kids are about in that group and the things that they enjoy. And I would say it's really a night of, even if you do, it doesn't have to be equal number of guys and girls. If the group just wants to go together, especially at a freshman level, that is like very common and that would be a really fun way to do it. So I guess that's my advice with homecoming.
So just to let you in on a little bit too, is like, so you have HOCO, which is homecoming, and TOLO. But you also have groups of kids who do NOCO, which is no homecoming. They don't go to homecoming, but they have their own celebration, and they do a NOLO, which is their own celebration too. So, and they still do big things too. They just don't necessarily go to the dance and take pictures and do the whole thing. So, yeah, so you've definitely got different groups of kids doing different things, but they're great kids and they're having fun and being safe and just kind of enjoying their high school experience, so, in different ways.
One thing about homecoming, there's usually a lot of assemblies and things that week. And with COVID this past year, there were no assemblies. And the principal I'm really impressed because he's talking about an alternative to try, instead of gathering the whole school together in one room, trying to figure out how we could still have school spirit and some sort of assembly without having everybody gathering in one room. So hopefully there'll be some sort of assemblies going on. It may look different than it has in the past, but keeping the tradition that Mercer Island is really a school spirited school. We'll hope to see that next year. And I really believe that he's trying hard to make it happen in a safe way.
Yeah, that's a good, and some of the ideas are groups of assemblies, so smaller groups, so maybe not everybody together, but maybe 2 or 3 assemblies and different groups of classes going in at different times. Yeah, we're just not sure. The parade, so you've hopefully all seen the homecoming parade. That's a like really big tradition for sort of everybody and families, even, where the band and cheer and drill come down and march through downtown to Mercerdale. And hopefully that will be like, it's a parade, so it's outside in space. So that may be an aspect that will be easier to bring back this year with homecoming. And that's been sort of a fun community piece of homecoming. And then the game on Friday night, of course. So hopefully we'll see some aspects. We're not sure what it looks like yet, but I would say be low key. I will say it's really interesting. When I was in high school, we danced at the dances. Like we went actually to homecoming and were there for several hours dancing. And for some, maybe you guys can bring it back, your freshmen can bring it back, but the dance portion tends to be more saying hi to all your friends and getting pictures. So it doesn't feel like quite as much dancing, but it'd be nice to see some of that come back when we're allowed and able to do that. So, all right, let's see. And then I think, let me see if I have any more that I've missed here. Okay, any drug issues? Here's a question about drug use at the high school. Anyone have words of wisdom for that?
I'll answer that. I mean, I think my observation is the high school is a microcosm of the world. And everything that you see in the greater society exists at the high school. There's, you know, drugs, there's alcohol, there's smoking, but there's also tons of kids that don't do that. And I think that it's not a prevalent, it's not more than, you know, it's not a rampant problem, but it would be dishonest to say that there aren't kids that have issues. There's every social circumstance for children. There's depression, there's anxiety, there's anorexia, there's bulimia. It is something of everything, but that's just part of who our, you know, greater world is and how things are kind of stressful. But what it really means, and that's why I say it's a time for parents to step in, not step out. And it's a time for you to have conversations with your own kids about what goes on in their world and what their stressors are. And I don't think it's something that more kids are turning towards at Mercer Island than, in fact, I've seen some data that it's actually less in certain Mercer Island, you know, less with Mercer Island than in other school districts, but I don't feel confident, you know, giving any data on that today. But I do think it's a good question. It would be wrong to say it's not there in some capacity, but it's also not something that is, you know, is different than what you would see in any school district, I don't think, in Washington State. So again, I think the advice, and this goes to the homecoming advice too, is high school is the time to start having conversations with your kids about your values and your family and what works in your home and what doesn't. And it's also a time as parents to have your eyes open and to recognize that when you see your child potentially going through something difficult, to support them and to offer resources and to help and not to always punish. Because I think sometimes kids are exploring things, and if you can answer good questions, they might not explore them too much. I guess that's how I'd answer it.
And honestly, I think the benefit of, you know, being on a small island is we know other parents. We know a lot of the parents of all of our kids' friends, and that helps. And even if we don't, and they make other friends, we can meet those people. So I think the beauty of living on this island is that it is a community and it takes a village. And I do feel really supported by all the families that I have met living here. So that's good. I know I have a lot of friends in Seattle and Bellevue, and their kids are going all over. And primarily our kids kind of stay on the island. So it's that's definitely the benefit of being here.
So just kind of on that note, like just having one graduate and the other one graduate this year's high school is kind of the time where your kids can kind of make some of those mistakes too. And you can, and like Carolyn said, you can be there to support them, and they can learn from them, and you can help them through that, because once they move out and they're gone, you're not there. So, but in high school, they're still in your house, they're still your child, and they're still there. So sometimes you need to allow them to make some mistakes on their own so that they can learn. I mean, within reason, but you're kind of there to not catch them and make it better. You're there to help them along the way to learn from the mistakes that they're making, and kind of this journey that they're on. So.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone. Thank you so much to Carolyn and Rika and Greta and Sherry for joining us tonight and for being a part of this panel. It's really helpful for us, and we appreciate your input and your insight and your experience that you brought with you with high school. And thanks to everybody for coming tonight and for your questions. We hope that if you have any further questions, you can email us at the PTA, and we'll see what we can do about helping to ease any transitions and help answer any additional questions you might have. Thanks so much to everyone, and we hope you all have a great night and look forward to this coming school year. Thank you.